Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode, another edition of the Nexus. I'm your co-host, M2 Dave, and of course, I'm here with my other co-host, Burrito Voorhees, aka King Jr. Say hi, dude.
What's going on, everybody? Back with another episode.
So, for our guest today, we have, in my humble opinion, one of the best smoke players in Mortal Kombat 1, one of my most loyal training partners who has leveled me a lot in this game. I really want to thank him for playing me, for leveling me up, and for being part of this podcast here today. Is none other than Chernyvolk. Was it Folk? I'm sorry. I might be messing up your name. How do I mess up the intro? Thank you so much for being here, and please correct me if I botched the latter part of your name.
Yeah, you did. You did, Bodger. Who gives a shit? Good to be here. Not one of I am the best smoke player, at least the best smoke loyalist in the game. And I need people in the comments when this gets posted to post a hashtag scout for me.
Well, I do appreciate you. I know it was a short notice. I messaged you on Discord. Thank you so much for being here. And you and I talk a lot. Franco, obviously, maybe to a lesser extent. So I always appreciate your feedback, your opinions, and our interactions. Sometimes maybe a little
Well,
bit hostile.
listen. I like to yap, so a
So
chance
do
I
all
get,
of us. Yeah. That's
it,
why we're
it,
here, man. We're here to yap.
a chance I get to yap about fighting games, I'm good with that. I'll do that any day of the fucking week. I've yapped on people's podcasts. They only get like fucking 30 views. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, no, I respect you for taking the short notice and coming on. So let me give people, like, I don't want to go on a rant. It's boring. Let me just give people, let me just preface by saying this. Like, we've seen kind of what's going on with the Tekken community. The latest patch, which is there was a which for which there was an emergency patch. A lot of people were angry. I think the conversation is, when is offense too much, and by definition, when is defense too much? And even for MK1, right? Uh, we have had so far two Sindel players winning. As part of those tournaments, obviously offline tournaments that are part of the Combat Pro Tour. There also we had Sonic Fox as well winning with Cyrax slash Serena. Um, so let's kind of get into the offense versus defense discussions. Forget about Tekken right now. We can get into that later. What do you think, Cherney, that Mortal Kombat 1, that is, where does it
Yeah.
stand in terms of offense versus defense? How do you see this as somebody who plays this game a lot, has a lot of experience, has reached Elder God, etc. So what do you stand?
We talking about in reference to the entire NRS era so far, so like MK9 up to now.
I mean, you could take it any way you want. I prefer that you comment on the game itself, not so much about, we could talk about the history, which
Yeah,
is fine.
no. I just wanted to know if you meant just the isolation or how do I look at this game compared to the other games. That's all I needed to
I
know.
mean, you can take it however you want, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your interpretation. Um,
Um, well, okay. I think it's like I said in that video I made, and I know you disagree. I think that the game has got a pretty healthy split of 60-40, 60 offense, 40 defense, personally. Now, defense in this game is 100% harder than it is to run the offense. So I think that's why to people it appears like there's a bigger disparity in that because there's a higher skill cap to defending, but there's always been a higher skill cap to defending, let's be honest. Um, so I personally think the game is in mostly a good place right now. I mean, there are a few things I would change about it on a universal level. Um, I think that the universality of safe jumps, for example, is bad. I think you need to be able to up block like literal frame zero during the get up animation, so they at least have to play an empty jump low or throw game against you sometimes, just to make that interaction more complicated. And I think obviously there's some like ambushes maybe that need to be looked at in that they're maybe a little too rewarding for how fast they come back, for example. But I mostly think that the game is a pretty healthy balance of those two things. Despite the fact I am a defensive player by nature, I do think offense needs to be slightly better than defense in the fighting game. Otherwise, you end up with like people's image of like what end state Tekken 7 looks like. Um, which obviously people weren't a fan of, or you end up with like what Injustice 2 was like to a lot of people, where all they saw was either zoning or one character got a life lead and ran away the whole game because it was impossible to catch each other, you know. Um, but yeah, mostly though, I have a positive opinion on the game in that respect, and I do think defense is good enough. It's not maybe as good as it should be, but I think the idea that I've seen some people say where this game is literally like playing like a Marvel game without the defensive options is like that's a gross over exaggeration. And it's like it's not even just a gross over exaggeration, it's easily disprovable um, through showing stuff in the lab, etc. Um, I also think a reason that you might have a lot of people who are kind of arguing against the idea of MK1 having good defensive power is, like Sonic has said, people just do not explore this game in the ways that truly matter. And by that, I mean, people, and I remember, in the last podcast you did with Cowboy when you were doing the tier list, I agree with Cowboy that the way it should work is that you should be able to main a character, but you should need to have to explore cameos and use more than one. A lot of people think the ideal for this game is you pick one character, one cameo, and you get to main that team for all eternity. I think that's bad if that happens in this game, and I think it's what's holding back a lot of people. I play a character that can literally find anything that works on defense or offense with pretty much every cameo in the game, and thus I have an adaptability factor I can rely on, right? I think more people would think defense was better in this game if they actually labbed more and if they played more cameos besides just one or two. Um, but
Let me, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. Let me. I think people maybe they will know already stand on this issue. Let me just bring on King Junior and kind of have him reply to what you have just said because I'm curious what he has to say before we move on to like other specific topics.
yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, King Junior, go ahead.
So I think that the defensive options are pretty lacking. Like if I had to give a percentage to offense to defense, I would say it's probably like 80-20, 30-70. I'd probably say more so 80-20. Like the you can see like elements of an attempt of defense, but you can maybe even argue it's somewhat offense. Like there's reversal summon cameo attacks that you can use. Some of them can be used on wake up, but they both have partial invincibility frames, and it's a very small amount. So a lot of the times they get stuffed, especially on wake up. Um, they're more reliable for like reversal counters in middle of like strings to exploit gaps and stuff. But the best example of that was pre-patch Lao Spin when it launched, and that was like the closest thing to defense you had. But it was almost essentially like defense with the use of offense. Like your defense led to a launcher, so like you can debate whether that's offense or defense or not, but there should be more of that, I think, in this game. And they took it out, obviously, because they ruled it out as a bug, and it now knocks down instead of launch like before. But
Yeah, and yet Chameleon Ball Roll still launches on reversal and wake up.
yeah, that there should be more of like that chameleon ball roll, like reverse. And I'm not saying like fully invincible. Like I think the semi invincibility is like a pretty healthy balance, and ball roll is also pretty balanced in the sense that if you punish it, you're putting chameleon on a cooldown. You're forcing like a combo to be performed before they can break again, since chameleon's being put on cooldown. So like
Yeah.
that's like a pretty good example of a defensive option. And like I said, it's debatable whether you want to rule it out as offense or not. But more characters should be able to have an option to exploit gaps like that, and not even just always full combo, but like just get them off of you. Like it would be really nice if Quan Chi had a reliable like summon cameo option. Not every cameo he uses can do that. Like Janet can, Serena can, but like Jax can't. Maybe with the gotcha grab tech there might be something. Uh, with the that's something we maybe even talk about later with that gotcha grab bug that's allowing people to punish things that are normally safe. Uh, some bizarre tech that I think South America found recently.
Yeah,
But
I saw that.
but yeah, I think the game mostly consists of offense. There's not too many defensive options, and there's definitely signs of like attempted defensive tools, but they definitely just aren't enough compared to the offense that the heavy offense in this game is filled with.
Okay, okay. So I know what you just said as far as examples, but I want you to define what you actually think good defense or good defensive power is in a fighting game. Because I think that obviously I think the idea it's like 80-20 kind of bad is ludicrous. And not only is it ludicrous, I would say it's
Well,
literally
let me,
impossible.
if I just may jump in for a second, I do agree that that percentage, and I think Cherny already kind of knows what I think. I think that's a little bit exaggerated. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's, but I do agree with Franco. And I guess with you, like it is about percentages, and where we think. So you probably think it's 60-40. Cherny does. Franco, I do think 80-20 is a little bit of an exaggeration.
Do you
I
think
would,
30-70 is like a healthy medium?
yeah, 70-30 at best. I would give it 65-30. 35. I think if you honestly, I don't think it's not about what we think. It's about what we observe, what we can factually see. And if you look at what's winning in the game in these online tournaments as well as offline tournaments, there's almost no question. I mean, you have to literally be. I'm sorry, not only to offend anybody, you have to be blind not to see this. Like, what's winning? Well, hard to blockables are. That's what's consistently winning. And the more you can put your opponent in highly disadvantageous situation, you're gonna win, right? That's what Sindel is. That's what Ghostface does. To a lesser extent, Homelander. Uh, I mean, Styrax. That stuff is just hilarious. Um, that's what's winning. You can theory talk about, maybe people are not leveling up their defense. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, and if you don't like it, that's on you. But again, I'm just documenting, what's actually winning at the highest level of play. And there's almost no question that
Another.
offense is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, no, yeah, go ahead, please.
I was about to say like another indicator too that there's not much defense either is how prevalent wake up buttons is. Like the game doesn't really force you to block all the time on wake up, and it's not as bad as MK11 wake up buttons, but like the game still doesn't. It's still really hard to condition somebody to block on wake up all the time. Like wake up buttons is still really prevalent in this game, and that's one of my big pet peeves about the game still. And I think that's just another thing that doesn't allow, like it doesn't promote defense. It just allows the person to mix up delay get up and regular get up and fish for a combo on their get up invincibility frames.
Well,
Um. Okay.
before
Wait.
turning,
Wait. Wait.
go ahead.
Well, I would like to go back to my original question because
Yeah, yes, yes. Let me answer it. Let me answer it. I think
no, I want Franco to answer it though.
fair
I want to
enough.
hear what he says because I
Okay.
know what you think. So
All right.
go back to my question, Franco. What is defensive power in a fighting game to you? What does that mean?
To me, that's having the ability to stop yourself from getting steamrolled, like from anything offensive, like strong anti-airs, uh, maybe like a tool that can push you back on block. Um, just good space control, I guess. Like,
Okay, and for the record, so you're saying before I go on, I want to assume you're saying you don't think this game has anything that does those things that's good.
well, I wouldn't say like that extreme, but like yeah, there's some good anti-airs, but like people are still able to get away with jump kicks pretty easily. Like the anti-airs aren't strong enough to create like a solid, consistent anti-air across the board. Like when I think of solid anti-air defense, like I think of MK9 jabs. Like I really wish that MK1 had that quality of anti-air because it defends you from just getting jumped in on because jump ins are easy to enforce. It's one of the easiest offenses to enforce with a high reward usually, especially in MK11 and MK1 because jump kicks they don't stagger on a hit like they did in MKX and MK9, so you get easy conversions off of them, which makes jump ins even stronger. But all we have really to counter jump kicks is up block, and up block is obviously not so strong. Um, that's just like one
Well, what,
example of like Aquaman's kind of like a defensive character. Like he is like an example of like good defense in my opinion. Like you really can't jump at him too much because his disjointed down two beats a lot of jump ins. You really can't jump at him. Like you actually have to. He kind of forces you to play grounded and honest. And like footsies, you can't really, unless you're like a character that directly counters him. You kind of have to play solid against him, and you can't just easily enforce your nonsense on him, I guess.
um, okay. So let's start. I guess I kind of want to talk about this topic in kind of a structured format that I don't know how much time Dave wants to use on this, but if we're going to talk about this, I actually want to have a thorough discussion about it, right? So, uh, first, first point I want to start on is the anti-airs. Um, so I think this game has the best anti-airs in an NRS game in the NRS era. And I think that, like, I'm not trying to say this to insult, I'm just trying to get right to the point. I really think if you can't anti-air consistently in this game, and if you actually, like, get successfully jumped in on in this game, I think you just got mental stacked, and it's like a skill issue thing. Um, I think, personally, and this is like a game design thing for me, I suppose, when it comes to fighting games. Personally, for me, I think that the anti-air jabs of Mortal Kombat 9 are like a very toxic kind of anti-air where it almost just like pretty much eliminated jumping of any sort. Like there has to be some kind of read component to an anti-air in fighting games, right? The only jumps that should be fully reactable or able to be stopped 100% of the time are just like raw jumps in neutral where there's like literally nothing the opponent can do to mix anything up. But in this game, I don't get it. Down twos are like super fast. They have super large hitboxes in this game. You have the buff to the down two cancel where it doesn't scale at all, and it's also unbreakable. Um, you get good damage off of like even down twos because multiple cameos in this game. Like you get pretty substantive damage off of down twos, like Movado, Sonya, Darius. Like I can name multiple cameos that allow for this, like Janet. Um, there's also the fact that you can literally anti-air while blocking in this game because of ambush cameos, right? Like if especially like I think most people when they get hit by jump in, it's usually when they're trying to walk backwards and kind of block and walk backwards, but you can use something like Sonya to give you something that just covers the area above your head outright, and you get a confirmable conversion from it. Um, I don't see how in a game that has that stuff in it, I don't see how it's possible for anti-airs to even be lackluster.
Well,
Um,
let me just jump in if I may, and just say,
yeah,
out of all the stuff that Franco, I don't question his intelligence as a player, but I do question his intelligence all the time when he makes these ridiculous arguments. Anti-air is one of the last things I would pick in this game. I just don't understand how that's even a talking point. Here, I'll put you in the spot, Journey. Prove to me that zoning is good in this game as a defensive mechanic. Go ahead.
um, as a defensive mechanic,
No, in general, to me, I define zoning as part of defense, right? If you can get in and mix me up all the way you want, that's okay. But I want to make you earn it. Which characters in this game do you feel do that?
talking about projectile-based zoning, I'm not gonna bullshit you. Like that's not very good. I think that characters though, I think there are characters though, they definitely zone with buttons. Like I would even say that's like considered, for example, to be a strength that my character Smoke has, right? Um, like forward 4 and back 2 are literally buttons that are designed to discourage you from chasing after him because you eat shit if you do.
But I assure
Um,
you, most people who are watching this who play the game don't care about smoke zoning. They're much more interested about, they're much more concerned, I should say, about invisibility mix-ups, or
I listen. I know that, Dave, but those
I know,
people
but
are.
you're like making again just a ridiculous argument, far more
I'm not
ridiculous
making
than
ridiculous arguments. True.
100% ridiculous argument. And
No, everything about the
well,
character
you
is
said that the
literally.
game has 60-40% defense, and I'm challenging you, and I think that's 100% ridiculous. If you watch any matches, including our, not just watch, if you play the game, including some of our games, Sector versus Smoke is a ridiculous matchup for Sector because there's no, so you can jump, or you can aerial teleport, you can teleport on the ground, you can teleport on the other side, you can just dash in. It's there are too many options that there's no way that the zoning player can keep all those options in mind and zone you accordingly, right? And
Not
that's
to
that just
dogpile and Smoke either, but Quan Smoke is one of the worst matchups in the game too. Like
correct.
that
Well,
matchup
yeah,
is
if
god awful.
Cabo earlier, if he were here, he would go on like a 30-minute rant. We'll have to listen to it. So, what
Yeah, but
zoning?
I,
What
I,
zoning are you seeing? I see almost none. Sector, yes. I'm not a downplay. I think she does very well in certain matchups. Then in the other matchups, guys, you saw Foxy against the player against the homeland. He looked like he never played a game. He literally looked like he never touched a game in his life. That's how bad that matchup is. By the way, not according to me. Just watch. Don't even listen to Foxy what he has to say. Just look what happened. I think there are at least 3-4 matchups for Sector like that, which almost makes her tournament viability irrelevant. Yeah, he beat up on Gurr a couple of times, which by the way, I think that is a good matchup for Sector. But again, what are you specifically seeing that makes zoning anything close to relevant in this game? There's one character you could easily say, but the rest you cannot. Go ahead.
well, no, there's definitely been at least two melee-based zoners in this game that work. Garrus and then Astra. Astra's just been kind of power crept, but like still there are characters, even like the super mix heavy ones, especially because of her like unique armor, right? Where she can literally just run away and they have to take all the risk to go to her. Like there's nothing advantageous about having to go in on Astra when you don't have like a lively advantage or something. At least
Again,
not that I'm aware
I
of,
don't
right?
know. I give you a layup and you talk about Ashra. Hello, Kung
Because
Lao. Hello, hello. Anybody play Kung Lao? Like safe armor, actual good projectile. Double has another armor, by the way. Has Sector, one of the best chems in the game. You know,
that's not a layup though, because most people still view Kung Lao as being a rushdown character, not
well,
even like a
I think he can.
viable zoner.
I'm
And even
talking
they,
about the evidence that suggests that he can be played in a very defensive manner. He can run away, of course, just like any good character. He can also come up close. Unlike Sector, who has fake offense, he actually has legitimate offense. That is the layup. You talk about Asha, who wasn't placed in pretty much anything ever. Um, that's when
believing
people like
Ashra used to
you
make top eights all the time until I think
used
Chaos
to, okay,
Reigns
this
came
is
out.
past tense. The point is, when was the last time she, in any of these online tournaments? And maybe not so much recently because of Tekken, but I used to watch them religiously. Maybe like one guy in the European tournament. I'm sorry for I forget his name. He, uh, he kind of placed well, but most
I think you're
players
talking
do
about
not place well.
Gi Exceptional. I think.
Yeah, Gui
And
exceptional.
then
Yeah,
I know Zeus made what Evo top 8 last year
and
too. The South American player.
it's not. She's not winning because of a runaway noise is something I actually care about when I fight her. So you talked about specifics. Let me give you specifics. Peacemaker needs buffs. There's almost no question about that. Tanya needs safe armor. People don't like it. That's too bad. You're too soft to handle. Don't play fighting games. Go play something else. I know it's harsh, but like, look, if we're gonna have like the Cyrex stuff in the game, the Homelander stuff in the game, the Ghostface stuff in the game, the Sindel stuff in the game, you're gonna need to have stronger defense and zoning. Again, if you don't like that, then finding this game is not for you. Go play nerfed fighting games. Tanya should have safe armor. When she charges that, it shouldn't launch like it used to. When she charges her, I'm sorry, I forget the in game name, but when she
Seeking
charges that,
guidance.
that thank
Yeah,
you,
speaking
that
guidance.
should be safe, and it should result in a knockdown similar to Sindel's, like plus 50, whatever. So she can not necessarily loop it, but she can get at least another charge, right? There should be more, the seeking guidance should do more stuff for her projectile. Then we can talk, right? Peacemaker, obviously the Eagle should have less cooldown. EX torpedo should be mid, so you can just mash low on his wake up. Once you buff all that stuff, then we can have an honest and maybe not major but minor buffs for sector. Definitely something should be done about Quan Chi as well. Then we can have a conversation about the game being 60-40. But right now, that that ratio is a joke.
Yeah, but the problem is though, is you're looking at this from the perspective of like, you're still looking at this from the perspective though of like traditional archetyping, which I think is just like that's like irrelevant in a fighting game philosophy that will never exist ever again.
I'm not looking
Um,
at it. That's what you're saying. I'm not saying that characters should do this one thing and never the other. I do recognize that it's a different fighting game. I'm just saying, why is Cyrex Serena allowed to literally one touch people to death over and over and over again? Cannot break, can't wake up, can't do anything. Essentially, it's a throw loop. Why is that in the game? Yet strong defensive zoning is not. Go ahead.
Dave, have you ever actually gone into the lab and actually labbed against the Cyrax that play?
No, but I assume the people who are playing for money who are traveling have, and they're much better players than I am. If you want to make the case you're not a good player and you haven't lapped, that's fine with me. But obviously, I assume the people who are playing the game for money who are traveling and wasting thousands of dollars, they have. And if I see them lose to this stuff, then I assume it's highly effective, and that's the meta.
A lot of those players, even our top players, said that they just didn't even know much about that team and they never played somebody using it.
They never
So,
played the team yet.
so the money is literally more on them just not knowing the matchup.
Well, again, I'm just documenting what's winning, and you're saying people don't know how to counter it. Maybe I don't know. I'm just not seeing what the counter is. I think what the game offers you is not much of a counter, which is essentially guess right, jump, whatever. That's not good enough.
I mean,
I
if
don't mind
even
having
if
to
people
up.
didn't know the Cyrax matchup, like people still aren't winning with zoning, regardless if they knew the matchup against Cyrax or not.
Well, I do
Well,
think
against Cyrax, it's not going to happen because she's literally designed to like punish you for being projectile reliant, right? I mean, clearly, clearly foam is meant to discourage you from using a lot of projectiles. That's obvious, but um, I
Well,
mean,
I would
even
argue in that particular matchups, and this is why I'm not a down player. I think probably Sector does better than most in that matchup because foam, you know, it doesn't have the fastest speed, doesn't have the fastest recovery, right? So if you spam that against Sector, she's just gonna, pew 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 you, right? And
yeah,
again, she does it better than most. And I think that matchup is maybe evenish. I don't know, right? But the point is, overall, right? The overall character sector, it's, what a joke! Like she can zone a lot of the match. All you have to do is jump. You jump all the time against me. Even sometimes when I know the jump is coming, I do forward four, and it just whips. Like it doesn't hit. So I'm
well,
literally punished for having the reactions.
I'll tell you that when it comes to being jumped in on, the sectors I consistently lose to, like people I play with, they don't do forward four when I jump at them. They do up rocket, and it hits every time, no matter what angle you're coming from. I can't
The
even.
sector that you lose to is because you're mashing a wake up and you don't know how to block the overhead or reaction. That's the reason why you people lose to. And by the way, if she had a legitimate overhead, I would be like, well, I'll take it, but it's not a good design. It's fake. And I'll give you guys the best example that I promise I'll shut up. Franco, who's a top player in this game when he travels, when he puts his mind into it. When we play online, I beat him with Sector. Is it fake? Of course it's fake because the overhead doesn't hit. Like, I'm saying the overhead hits more than it should. When I play him online, I hit the overhead like 30-40% of the time. When I play him offline, I hit him about like maybe 2 or 3 out of 50 times. By the way, it's the same thing with Sub Zero. I don't know why they designed these moves that way. That's a different conversation, but it's a completely different game. And again, if that overhead, were like 21 frames, 20, which is kind of what online is, right? What it does to that one particular move, then yeah, of course, she's a different character and it's a different ball game. Um, but yeah, that's the reason why most players lose to that character online. Offline, it's a different story.
See, I just don't buy it about the overhead. Like, that's not a raw, real mix up in of itself. But she definitely hits you with the overhead if she's like threatening a walk up throw, for sure. You can't react to her like trying to walk up throw you in that overhead, especially because
That's
the
what
overhead.
Cherny, with all due respect, that's what I thought, and I blew up King Junior. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, you can think that. Franco, what happened when we played offline? How many times did you get by the overhead?
Almost zero.
Again, people don't know. You talk about people not knowing enough about this game. That's something you don't know. Like, and by the way, I had another two players from Texas Showdown. One was like, "Yeah, you're 100% right. This is so fake. I was blocking every single time."
Yeah,
And one of those people was Cowboy. I'm like, "Yeah, I told you it's fake." And once you can hold just down back against a character in this game, that's the definition of the character is not very good. Like, at least in certain matchups. The reason Kung Lao works because you cannot do that against Kung Lao. He'll call a missile, he'll walk up, and now you have to guess
yeah,
between overhead, low, and possibly throw. And that's the game. That is the game in a nutshell. Everything else, every other argument is just not. It's just inaccurate, by nature.
well, I'm not denying that like that's the absolute best in the game. I just don't think it's like light years better. Is all I'm saying. Um,
According to results, it is.
but like I guess we'll just have to see tournament results. Like I do hope that more people, um, like, because unfortunately with this game, I still think there is a problem of like people aren't taking it as seriously as they could, even the sponsor players, because I think that there's been such a consensus that has just been allowed to have been come to that the game is like scrubby and that the game kind of sucks. So that's going to have an effect eventually on the psychological level, where sometimes people, even the best players, are just like not going to care that much. Um, and I don't know, like even it doesn't help when you have guys like Sonic who are saying that, and I'm not saying I have my opinion because Sonic has my opinion, but Sonic thinks that MK1 has the best defensive power of the big three right now.
I mean, if Franco can respond, and I will let him. I don't like to appeal to authority. I'm more interested in what
I'm
players
not.
do.
I'm not appealing
I
to
know you're not. I
authority
know you're
though.
not. But
I'm just.
the point is, I'm more interested in like what players do than what they say, because we, no. I mean, look, I was a competitor at MK9. If you asked me what was strong, I would say anti-zoning, right? Obviously, but as a spectator, I would have a different perspective, right? So I don't really care what people say as much as what people do, and that's the way I evaluate the game. That's the way I assess the game.
Right.
And I think that's a more interesting conversation. Oh, this guy on Twitter. I know it's not a guy, right? It's freaking Sonic Fox, but he has said a lot of stuff that I think I just go almost completely insane that I 100% disagree with. And by the way, that
Well,
history is
yeah,
proven
he
to be
is. He
wrong.
is me too. But like, I will say though, like, regardless of what you want to say, like, so I did. I watched like all the Texas Showdown top eight, right? And I watched that grand finals between him and Dialogue. And like, yes, you can say what you want that he won off the set play and yada yada, but he also, if he hadn't had the defense that he had, he would have gotten smoked by Dialogue. He was not getting opened up where a lot of other people in the bracket that Dialogue went through were getting opened up by. So like, defense did matter in Sonic's case. And
What
on
are you
pay,
talking about? He literally won from. You can literally see Dial was like, I don't know what to do when I'm on the ground. I just don't know what to block. Like he's just like he's doing like three mix-ups in a row. I have to guess strike throw, and then I have to guess another one, and then sometimes you have to guess another one. Yes, that's gonna win you games. I don't give a damn how strong. But I would say like easily Sonic Fox got off footsie. That obviously it's not Sonic Fox's fault. It's the fact that Shao is a much superior character in the footsies range, right? For obvious reasons. If you play the game, you already know. But like, I don't understand these imaginary arguments that you're making. Here's why
do I
Sonic
need
won.
Dave?
He
If you
won
want
because
me
the set
to,
is so strong. Not even somebody like Dialog, by the way, who won a major that I attended at CEO. Like, no, no human being is gonna guess right if you put him in a vortex 2 or 3 times in a row consecutively. Like, it's just not possible. You're gonna guess wrong. And the games that he, by the way, that he did win, he guessed right. But again, in a long series, you cannot guess right that many times.
David, if I need to, if you really want me to go to this kind of trouble, I will rewatch that grand finals, and I will literally timestamp all the times when Sonic literally did have better defense than Dialogue.
For what? To block the one time mix
To
up that
block
Shaw.
or play neutral. Yeah, you can say one time that Dialogue got out of the vortex multiple times.
Why are you like
Did.
arguing these simple arguments that are easily disprovable? You know which character has better um, offense in a highly offensive game by your admission. So what are we arguing about? Like this is a non-argument. Yes, Sonic Fox is the better player, yet he's also using arguably one of the best characters in the game, if not the best, in a meta that it's just non-stop pressure, non-stop guessing. Yes, he won using that. What are we arguing about? Let's not argue about non-arguments.
The thing is, though, your point doesn't hold up when it's two Vortex characters against each other, and Shao literally kills Cyrax faster than Cyrax kills him. If you want to say the meter drain is what makes all the difference, it's fair enough. But even in that universe, like Shao is hitting for like upper 40s to 50 every time he hits somebody. Cyrax is doing
You
what,
just
like
literally revealed
33%
the
of
difference.
most?
You just literally revealed the difference. Yes, if Shao Kahn could steal your meter and he could do those combos, then yes, he would be better than Cyrax. But guess what? He cannot. So what is your point? I don't know what your
But
point is.
see, I just don't think. To me, this is ridiculous because not only that, but Shao can build more meter in neutral safely than Cyrax can.
That's
So like he could
off.
have.
I think the bombs are one of the best projectiles in the game because of what they do and their fast recovery. Not just obviously in a vortex situation, but the fact that she can place it, you know, she can place them next to her feet, and I think she's very underrated zoning. She's very underrated space control. That can be even explored to a higher degree than what Cyrex Express are already doing. But anyway, the point is she is incredibly uh she's an incredible vortex that honestly it's in MKX by nature, and this game is, I'm not sure, is designed defensively or zoning wise to handle it. That's my point.
Okay, if you think it's like an MKX style vortex, then because like I actually do know because I play against somebody who does a lead ship. What's the vortex then? What are the options, and then what are the counterplay to those options?
Which character, which game?
Cyrax Arena. What's the actual vortex? I want you to tell me what the options are and then what the answers are.
The options are usually you either have to jump to avoid the throw, or you have to like micro duck the throw, block the bomb, and depending on how many bombs they already have on the screen right next to you, then you may have to make further guesses.
The bomb that's right behind the bomb on top of you is not real.
Well, again, you're making arguments that are not reality
I'm making
because
arguments based on the fact that I know the matchup better than most people,
okay,
Dave.
fair
To
enough.
be
Maybe
fair, like Cyrax is one of the few characters that can put you in layers of 50-50s. Like Homelander is a mix machine, but if you guess right on Homelander, chances are you're only gonna have to guess maybe one more time depending on the mix up. If he does like the diabolical dash uppercut, the best thing he could do to challenge you with another 50-50 is like Farah ambush into the overhead, but even then that's up blockable. It's still 50-50. But like Cyrax, she can force you into like what feels like three guesses sometimes because the aerial net hit advantage is so plus. You can put like three bombs on the ground and a strike throw like two or three times. Shao Kahn, at most, you're probably gonna have to guess twice against him because if he does something safe with the axeless stance, he could try to armor you with like the grab or the axe swing into a conversion. But Cyrax, she just seems like she has the most layers with her mix. So it's like even if you guess right once, you're probably gonna have to guess again and possibly even a third time. So it's like I can't think of anybody else that really has that many layers of mix like
To be
her.
fair, though, she needs those layers of mix because the other characters you mentioned literally can kill you in 2 hits off of a first hit with the additional bar, and she has to hit you like 3 times minimum. She has to.
well, again, you're not making any sense. You literally just said 10 minutes ago. It's
Leaving
like,
and speaking literal facts about the game that cannot be argued.
okay, then why did you just contradict yourself 10 minutes ago when you said, yeah, the difference is that when you fight those characters, even though they have die damage, you can actually break against them. Yet against Cyrus, you could never break. And not just can you not break, she wastes your defensive options. Like when she comes close, not just defensive, right? Because everything is tied to a meter. Obviously, it's a fun game, right? Not only do you have less defensive options, to an extent, you also have less offensive options. You said 10 minutes ago, yeah, the difference is, yeah, Shao Kahn and maybe Homeland do a lot of damage, but they don't steal your meter. She does. That's the meta. That's what's winning. I don't give a damn what you think about,
I
oh,
wait. I never said anything like that, though. You're just putting words in my mouth. I
well,
never said anything like that.
people can go
I
back and listen to them themselves. Anyway,
but no,
nobody's going to convince me on a bigger point. On a bigger point, nobody's
yeah.
going to convince me that anything in this game, even closely, remotely, resembles defense to that extent. No, am I arguing that it should? I'm just saying that stuff is insane, and defense is nowhere near as good, or zoning for that matter.
Also, I mean, probably for the purposes of this conversation, you wouldn't consider it valid because it was a thing that wasn't known then. But we also now know too that you can use Sub-Zero to just invalidate all the setups. Like if she does any knockdown into a bomb, even if she's draining your meter, every single setup of hers is beaten by doing the ice armor into the shoulder charge ambush, and she can't do anything about it. On top of the fact that ice armor prevents you from getting hit by the bombs anyway. Um, so like, I think that there's a lot more options to it than people make it out to be. I think people are upplaying the fuck out of the character, and I say that, as someone who, like, I play what I think, besides Sonic, is, like, the best Cyrax player in the entire scene. Um, and she does all that stuff to me. I'm familiar with it. I've been put through it for hours at a time. It's not, like, as unbeatable as it looks, and neither is it, like, risk-free even without you having meter. Like, she eventually has to commit to something, it's gonna get her killed.
The argument is not whether it's the argument is not whether it's beatable or unbeatable. The argument is why doesn't something like that exist in terms of zoning and defense? Again, not to that extent. Maybe 40% of the time, and the reality is there's nothing. You talk about your hours. I think I've been playing this game more than both of you combined, at least at one point. Even though I may not be as good of a player as you guys, I can confidently say that the zoning in this game is very weak. I think it's the weakest it's ever been in an
I,
MRS game.
I'm up to 2,200 hours on this game on console alone.
Fair enough,
So,
but that doesn't even again we can flex about hours. Fair enough, and maybe I was wrong to point that out. Nonetheless, my argument um, continues, and I will state that defense in this game is very weak. Zoning is very, very weak, and I think certain characters need improvements. And I hope in the next patch that they get it.
also, I will say that and this I will admit is like a perception, like a subjective perception thing too. But also, like Franco, um, talking about an example of the lack of defense being how good wake up buttons is. It, Franco, I don't know what to tell you because in other fighting game scenes, wake up buttons is considered a defensive option. That's usually a thing people like to have as a viable thing in their fighting game for defensive purposes. And you're right that wake up buttons is good in this game, but that does mean the defense is at least better than, you know, uh, you seem to think it would be. It may not be the kind of defense you want to play exactly, which I also think is like it's like a broader part of this conversation that could be had is that could be also people just don't want to play the defensive options that they're given. Um, but yeah, that's for maybe later in this conversation. But like, uh, the fact that wake up buttons is good is a defensive option. I mean, that was literally part of the conversation that we had during MK11 about the game's defensive options being too good was how good wake up buttons was. Now, of course, I don't think wake up buttons is actually as good as Franco says they are in this game. I think it's pretty reasonable whether someone's getting up or not. And there's so many ways to meaty both wake up options with ambushes on top of that. Like, I just don't see that being that much of a problem. But I also think that where it works, I think it's good that it works. That's defense. That's defense. Same thing
I
goes.
don't know.
Same, same thing goes for armored launchers. This game is armored launchers. Well, that is a defensive option. It may not be the kind of defensive option people want, but it's there.
Yeah,
I'll
so
Uh,
let
see,
Franco.
so the armor is
I want to let. I will let Franco respond, and I'll point out the whole hypocrisy of that talking point. But go ahead.
I also want to get back to debating jump kicks in a second. It won't take me long to respond to your earlier comment, Cherny, but
okay.
um, actually, I'll respond to that now real quick.
Yeah, go
Long
ahead.
story short, the MK9 anti-air meta I think is the healthiest in my opinion because I know you said jumping was almost unviable or very anti-air one almost every time, which if so the mind game was you could fish for a jump punch, but a jump punch was a lot easier to anti-air, unless it was a cross-up jump in. Jump in on cross-up was a little harder to anti-air consistently, but
Yeah, I
jump
remember.
jump kicks were a lot harder to anti-air consistently. But the good part was you couldn't convert off a jump kick super easily in MK9 or even MKX unless you had like an aerial special. And the majority of characters don't have aerial specials in that game, so you weren't doing like jump kicks willy nilly like in MK11. And I know they were OSable in MK11, but um, you couldn't do a jump kick in MK9 and convert off of it 99% of the time. And it's like if you got hit by a jump kick, it was whatever. And that was the mind game. You either respect the jump kick and get just stuffed by the jump kick, or you could try to fish for the jump punch and maybe they respect your potential jump kick, but then you actually land a jump punch. And in my opinion, that was the best jump in slash anti air meta. I wish I would go back to that. But
So
NJPs were also a good option too against cross up jump ins. I like NJPs, but MKX NJPs kind of some characters were horrible, like, and then some characters were super good, like Ferritor, Cyrax,
yeah.
Sub. But I like unique NJPs. But what were you about to say?
Um. So the thing is, yeah, I remember all that to be the case, but the one thing I don't remember, though, and this is like the key point, was there any way that anyone, on the other hand, could actually condition you to get hit by an NJP? Because I do not remember that ever happening. I remember you were pretty much able to time your jab at the same time every time and do kind of a blocking OS off your stand one that made sure you blocked the jump kick, but you always anti-aired the jump in punch. That's what I
No,
remember.
that didn't exist. That there was no one size fits all against jump ins in that game. Me and my brother still play
But
MK9 to this day, and like we get hit by our jump attacks, jump kicks, jump punches. Like there wasn't no like one size fits all anti air option against any jump in.
also, I will say personally too, it is a preference thing. I don't like anti-air jabs working in any 2D fighting game anyway. Um,
Oh, that's fair. I mean,
like I think it's too easy for too big of a reward. Now in this game, obviously it's scaled back, but I seem to remember in MK9 you got some pretty like ridiculous percents for just stand oneing somebody out of the air. That seemed like really preposterous to me.
I mean, I
Uh,
guess me and you just have a different preference at that point. But yeah, the gravity obviously was a lot less scaled. Like or the recovery of the jabs in MK9 and
yeah,
MKX were a lot lower. But
but oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh my bad. What were you about to say? Yeah, you go ahead.
Um, but well, on the other hand, though, I just don't think. But that, we're talking about a preference, though, with the thing that I just
That's
don't
part of
even.
the defense though that I was trying to, that's what I brought that up because I was part of the defense that I wish existed. Like to me, that's defense, is being able to tame your opponent from just forcing or allowing them to enforce easy potential offense on you. Like some of the easiest offense to obtain is from jump attacks usually, at least in NRS games.
Yeah, what I was gonna say about that was, I mean, that is a preference thing, but we're discussing a thing. It's a preference thing, though. In a scenario where, like I said, I just don't even think the kind of situations you're describing with jump ins in this game even exist. I think the anti-airs in this game are
They
pretty good.
I think they definitely exist in this game. Like there's a lot of pro comp level events that somebody just gets hit by a jump kick and then like something into fatal blow and it's like your half your life
I don't
bar.
think
It's
it's
like
as relevant as you're making it out to be. Now, if you
Yeah,
talk about MKX, that was cancerous. If you talk about even MK11, maybe to a lesser extent, in this game, look, I think Franco was like to play like Super Turbo, right? If at any range you jump, there's the uppercut.
no.
yeah,
My thing is Anti-airs are better in this game than MK11 but jump kicks are still way too strong in my opinion. The reward is just way too easy to access in my
It's wrong at
opinion.
all. I think if
I don't understand this, Franco, because you're getting less damage off jump kicks than in MK11 or X, even depending on the character you played.
No, no, definitely not
Like,
MKX. Definitely not MKX. Not off a jump kick, no. Unless you're like Scorpion or Alien with an aerial special, you're not getting that much off a jump kick in MKX with most characters.
but
So that's
yeah, I
false.
just
That's
don't.
false. That's false.
I, I just think that to me, this is like making a mountain out of a molehill, and it could be also the character I play. Like my character, Smoke, just doesn't get jumped in on. Just like doesn't exist. So I suppose it could be that like I'm playing a character that's privileged in that regard. That might be possible, but considering I play a character everyone is saying like how trash he is and all that, like I don't know. But I know with my character, the only time I'm ever getting hit by jumping in this game is maybe because I'm trying to wave dash backwards and someone jumps at just the right time and it throws me off. But otherwise, I'm not getting jumped in on this game.
Well,
Neither,
oh sorry.
like, let's say someone also jump kicks, right? Jump kicks on block are just not giving you that much offense in this game. You're getting maybe off the deepest possible jump kick, you're maybe holding like plus 10 at the maximum. And with the pushback that they put you through, that's just not enough for anyone to enforce much of anything on you. I just don't see it as that big of a deal. Like, even if I didn't think the anti-airs were really good in this game, um, like, people just don't get that much off a jump in. Like, they can't jump in punch on you ever. So all they can really do reliably is jump kick you, and they can't do much of the jump kick. It's blocked. Of course, the jump kick can always get up blocked, in which case they just explode because you get maximum damage punished with every character in the game off that. Um, and yeah, and that's not even to mention that you can use armor to anti-air in this game. You can use all sorts of shit. So, this idea that the anti-airing needs to be better to me is like kind of divorced from the reality of the game and how it plays out. Like, I just don't see it. I don't even see it at high level. Like, the only thing
I
that
could
you
get a
brought
bunch
up.
of clips for you at a high level that jump kicks have robbed many people from,
I mean,
or
you could get a
anti-airs
bunch
have
of.
lost. But
I just feel like like you could be focusing your attention on issues that I think just by the sheer amount of evidence you can easily prove Shirley wrong most of what he's saying, but you choose to engage in these pointless arguments on wake up button. Dude, I hate wake up buttons. I'm not a fan, right? You know me, and we have had this conversation a million times. But Cherney is right. It is a form of defense. Now, is Cherney going to say if he's consistent? He's not going to say this because you know he's not consistent. Do you support power crushes in Tekken 8?
Do I?
Yes.
Um, yeah, I never had a problem with power crushes. I just didn't think they should launch in a Tekken environment because the risk
Okay.
reward is different.
Well, they're a form of defense, and if people don't like it, that's on them. If people do like it, like I do, so what's the problem with that? Why is there like a witch hunt against that? I don't care if you like him or not. I just told you I don't like wake up buttons in MK1 or
Well,
much
it's
less in.
because Tekken is an entirely different kind of game. It's like a different dynamic. That's why.
Well, again, now you're going into the preference. I don't like jumping. Like that's your preference. That's okay. But they were the
One,
game's best defensive mechanic, especially pokers at the heating gauges. Why were they nerfed?
well, listen, I don't disagree with you about that, but like, at least from what the community seemed to think, like
I don't care
this
what the
was.
community thinks. I care what you think.
Well, personally, I did not mind them. I mean, I
You
played Victor,
you
right?
regurgitated the community's point nonstop. That's my problem with you. Again, I want to know what you think. I don't want to know what FDX or Memesui thinks. I think they don't know what they do know what sometimes what they're talking about, but it's usually the sheep mentality, the herd mentality of the tech community.
Well, then if you want my personal opinion was I was kind of indifferent to them. I would use them while I had them, but losing it is also like, yeah, you know, because I would rather defense be better in those more traditional Tekken ways anyway. But I didn't mind them. I personally didn't think they were scrubby. I thought the people that thought they were scrubby were kind of like crybabies.
Well, I mean, you didn't make that opinion known in your videos. You were focusing on other issues, so that was a funny way to communicate that talking point. I think that comes across, in my opinion, as hypocrisy. Um, the point that I'm trying to make is, if you want to support defense, then I think you support in all kinds of aspect, not just in the ways that you like. Look, again, I just told you I don't like wake up buttons. I'm with Franco on the talking point. However, you're right. It does help defense. Again, not in the way that I personally like, but hey, it's there. It is there and it does exist. Um, I think more people should be consistent in this manner instead of trying to, uh, make a point and then come out as, and then eventually result in being a hip, and eventually result in being a hypocrite.
Well, I don't think there's anything hypocritical about that. If anything, I think it's a bad mentality to take because basically what you're telling me is that if it works for this game, it'll work in every game, so therefore it should be considered for every game. Right? That's like where that mentality leads to. Um, like like I said, personally for me, and maybe I become influenced by being an NRS player. No, I don't mind if there are launchers in Tekken. I personally don't care. Uh, but from a fun perspective in Tekken, I don't think it's very interesting. That's like where the preference comes in. Um, like high level wise, I think it's better if the defense is better in other ways. But I have fun with things like that, right? So I don't have a bias against them or anything. But I think that's also an important distinction to make. Like, even if I think that they're acceptable, it doesn't mean they're like a good thing to have as your defensive option in the game. And plus, even with the heat engagers that were power crushes that could launch, that still is missing the point that people said even if you left those in the game, they still didn't feel like defense was good enough. They felt like that heat engager power crushes were like a band-aid solution to them not wanting to compromise on how strong they wanted offense to be. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's nothing hypocritical about it. It's just like like preference-wise, I don't care. But it probably is better for Tekken as a game if that's not like the centerpiece of your defensive power. Probably not a good idea.
I um I agree with you in terms of like there are nuances for sure, like because each game is different, but nobody's gonna convince me that Tekken 8 in this meta has the same offense as Mortal Kombat 1. I think that's a ridiculous argument because there's nothing in Tekken like Cyrax. By definition, the Vortex, which if I'm not mistaken, was it Saban who coined the term? Uh, or one of the Street Fighter players, right? That term is is specifically mentioned in the realm of 2D fighting games, correct? It's not mentioned in Tekken, right? We call essentially Vortex, is a
Right.
loopable offense, right? We don't use that term in Tekken or any other 3D fighting game.
Yeah.
Um, so we don't have like loopable offense. We do kind of have it, there's like Oki, but that Oki is nowhere near as strong as like Marvel or even the throw loop meta that we have in Street Fighter 6, right?
Right.
So I don't think offense is actually even in this patch is even that strong. I think people are exaggerating. It's Tekken players who haven't left their house for 20 years, haven't played any other fighting game for 30 years. They're used
Well,
to the
yeah, I was gonna say you have to understand that most Tekken players only play Tekken, so they literally have no frame of reference like you or I might.
so when they like, yeah, I can sidestep like 95% or 90% of the character's move list. Oh my god, the game is bad. Like, no, the game is good now because you cannot do that. I can't backdash out of everything. Yeah, you cannot. That's a good thing. Like, their homing moves, yeah, that's a good thing. Because the last time we did the homing moves, there's a game called I'm sorry, there's a game called Tekken 5.0 in which one character can kill you from if you attacked at the wrong time. I know I'm in the minority as far as legacy players, as far as this issue is concerned, but those are all
I
good
thought
things.
homing moves got introduced in T6. I thought. I don't
Right.
think they ever existed in T5.
I know. I'm saying the lack of them
Oh.
existing resulted in like Tekken 5.0 Steve, who could kill you from a sidestep.
Yeah.
Um, so nobody is addressing this issue, which is, I think, the actual topic that people should be discussing. The hive mind mentality of the Tekken community. I believe monetization and whatever, all that stuff that goes along with it. They're just trying to, profit of, not necessarily profit, maybe it's the wrong, wrong verbiage, but trying to, like, get people riled up about a bunch of nothing. Yes, the game is more offensive now. And so, by the way, no one here to the extent that Mortal Kombat 1 or Marvel or Guilty Gear, any of the other games are offensive. God forbid, yeah, you actually have to learn how to block now instead of backdash inside of everything. What's wrong with that?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The problem is, in the way that Tekken 8's designed right now, is that there's too many things that are safer plus that are also not sidesteppable on a read or anything. That's the problem.
I don't know how that's the case. It's just buff the sidestep. In fact, there are examples of literally homing moves being sidestepped like Lily, which essentially those are glitches, right? The homing moves are supposed to track.
Yeah.
Um, and they nerfed the heating gauges from plus 17 to plus 9. So you really, a lot of the, while running those, you can sidestep. So you're like, oh yeah, you can sidestep them. Like, okay, why would I risk half life for plus 4? Obviously, that slows down the game, limits the interactions, and turns it more into like waiting meta. I'm a huge fan of Tekken 7, mostly throughout its lifespan. I'm a huge critic of the last patch, which incredibly nerfed the power levels, made the game very, very boring. I'm gonna use the words from another um, from a content that most people will agree. They will disagree with me, but they will agree with this. Horrific. All I did was backdash. Boring. PDX. Those are his words, not mine. So I don't want to play Tekken 7 for another 8 years. I want to play Tekken 8 for another 8 years. And the community has done everything in their power to advocate for Tekken 7 gameplay style, which, in my opinion, is despicable. It should not be as such.
I mean, the problem is though they already addressed one of the biggest issues that caused late stage Tekken 7, which was there's no infinite stages. I mean, that was really what led to a lot of that problem.
Not really.
So
Not really.
I
They
don't
have already
understand.
nerfed offense tremendously, and they have buffed the sidestep. So, like, there are certain things like if you. So there was a team tournament earlier today. It was I believe maybe it was in Saudi Arabia. It was hosted by one of their local organizations. I forget the name. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And there's certain moves that got sidestep. It just doesn't make sense visually. Like what the like? How did the character just end up like behind the other character? Like it just doesn't make any sense. So, and we all know like traditionally, like in any fighting game, whether it's Mortal Kombat 1 or Tekken, defense is one of the things you learn at the very, very latest, right? So we don't know what the meta is. And yes, I'm very, very concerned about a boring, slow, non-interactive game, just like I was concerned with Injustice. So even though I'm pro defense, I'm pro zoning, I don't want to play a slow game. Like I don't. It's boring. It's boring to watch. It's boring to play. I I want, like you initially said, I want a 60% offense and 40% defense. Maybe even a 65. We'll be okay with that. I think MK1 has lost its mind with the Cyrex stuff. But I don't mind like a faster, like game. I want to play that. I don't want my character holding back and just like, oh, okay, that this is what dominates the game. It's boring for the player. It's boring for the audience. That's my perspective.
See, I'm that sicko that actually loves shit like that. That's why
What's
I
that?
love playing Black Manta and Injustice 2, because that's all he did was he forced you to play that. That's why I loved Injustice 2 so much.
Well, let's
Granted,
bring in Franco. Yeah, Franco, what do you think? I know you don't play Tekken as much anymore, but
he's
um,
muted right now. I don't know where he is.
Yeah,
no,
I'm
no, no,
still. I was
he's
just
in.
listening.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no, he was just listening. What do you think? I know you don't play Tekken, but where do you stand in terms of like the 60-40? Are you higher? Are you lower? Not in terms of like NK1 or Tekken, but just in general, like what do you want to see? Or like,
What would I
am I a
see
sellout?
like in my imaginary
Yeah,
fighting game that I would create?
yeah.
Uh, Obviously I want offense to be the majority of what the game plays and viewers see if I'm making a fighting game, but I still would do my best to cater to all archetypes as possible. Maybe have like out of a character of or out of 30 characters in a roster, I would say I would try to make four of them projectile zoners in their own unique way, and then
Hey
have
guys, hold on, I'll
grappler.
be right back. Just give me a minute.
Okay, no worries. I would try to have like maybe four projectile zoners in their own unique ways, some grapplers, some trap characters, setup characters, block pressure characters. As many archetypes you can think of. Some hybrid characters like some mix and matches, but the majority of them should be offense. You don't want another situation where a roster like Injustice 2 is meta and the meta is like walking back, very slow gameplay. Or like you said earlier with the Tekken 7 in the final patch, the meta was very slowed down. If I remember correctly, that's what you said. So that's like
Oh yeah,
that's my
yeah.
ideal vision for a fighting game.
So you agree with the 60-40, maybe even 65?
Yeah, I think
Um,
65-35 is like the most healthy in my opinion, if that's fair to say.
I think so, and I think that's kind of what I'm advocating for. And it's so disappointing, like I think the argument has always been like Mortal Kombat has like a lack of legacy, whereas I think Tekken has too many freaking people who are too pro legacy and just want everything, the way it used to be for like the way it has been for the past 20, 30, 20, 25, 30 years. Um, which at some point, like the game has to evolve, right? You cannot play the way um, it always has been. And I think Tekken players freak out about everything. Like Kazuya is a tracking move to the left. Oh my god! Can't have that. Oh my god! Like why are you freaking out? Like it's okay. Like let him experiment. Hilarious to me. It's so crazy. Let him experiment. If there's a mistake, they're gonna patch it, right? If something is too strong, they're gonna nerf it. If something is too weak, they're gonna buff it. But they freak out about everything, and I think that's essentially what this Tekken 8 patch was about. Obviously, I don't support everything. I don't support the glitches that came along with it. I don't support even some of the moves. Maybe need to be nerfed, but um, in general, I do agree with the directions. I think Tekken has always been a very defensive game. It needed to be more offensive. Um, they addressed that through obviously the heat system, through lots of buffs and through new moves, etc., etc., etc. I generally support that, and I think any direction that kind of goes, that goes along with, we're gonna nerf that, and I think it's wrong. Like I think the game's gonna become more boring, and if I had wanted to play Tekken 7 for another 8 years, I would. I have the game. I can install it immediately. I can play it. But I don't want to play Tekken 7. I think it was a very good game for what it was, and I want to move on with my life. If you guys want to play Tekken 7, go play Tekken 7. I want to play Tekken 8. Um, that's my perspective, and I hope that Namco doesn't go too crazy with the nerfs. Well, either one of you go ahead and chip in.
What would be your I like? So I don't play Tekken as much as you do, but like, if you had your ideal changes for defensive options, and who cares what the community thinks? Like, what would be your ideal changes for defensive options? Like, what do you think would be a
Well,
healthy
they've already
balance?
done that to improve the size up tremendously. I think that was the right thing. They also, again, unless you play this franchise, this may seem like not a big thing, but essentially while you're crouching, you couldn't sidestep into um like into the background. So if literally I'm in practice mode right now using Dragonov, I'm player one. I can now crouch and sidestep to the right side as I'm crouching. So that again, that buffs defense because now I can sidestep certain stuff from a crouching position that I couldn't do before. Um, they
Would
reduced the chip.
oh sorry sir.
They reduced. Yeah, let me just finish this point, please. They reduced the chip, which which to some extent was necessary. So that they made the throws not track, aside from certain king situations, like so they've done a lot in my opinion. They've nerfed a lot of the offense in this game. Like eating gauge now, like instead of being plus 17, they're like plus 9. So they've done a lot of stuff. And again, if you reference that tournament from depending where you are in the region, like whatever, let's just say yesterday, a lot of those matches, like maybe 75% of them came down to the last 10, 15 seconds. So if they nerf more, this game's going to become boring. Like, it's just going to become too slow. It's going to become non interactive. And I don't want to play a game like that anymore.
So would the counter to crouching sidestep be like a tracking move or like a mid? If I'm understanding
Yeah,
Tekken,
yeah,
if
exactly. Yeah. No, depending on obviously the character and the situation. But it's not just, that particular gameplay aspect. It's about, like the overall buffs to the sidestep, the nerfs to offense, the nerfs to heat engagers. So the game is more defensive. Um, and I would like to keep it like in this state. I'm not saying you have to, keep everything exactly the same. You can always buff and nerf, the typical fighting game stuff. But I think more nerfs um, would be detrimental to the experience of this game, in my humble opinion, to the extent that I would want to play it anymore. I would just play MK exclusively or look into Garu or Street Fighter.
By the way, I'm back, guys.
nice,
Yeah, we were
nice.
just like discussing some Tekken stuff. I think Tekken 8 is in a good place. I don't want to see any more nerfs. I don't want to see uh eh, nerfs in terms of like the overall package, right? I think the game's in a good state in terms of defense versus offense right now. Because they have significantly reduced the chip. They have buffed the sidestep. You can now even sidestep from the crouching position. Heating gauges are like only plus 9 now instead of plus 17. If they nerf any more, I think this game will become worse than Tekken 7.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would like to play Tekken with you one of these days, and I don't care how much of a skill gap there is between me and you in that game, but um, I still would like to play you one of these days offline.
No, for sure. Trini, I know you obviously you play a lot more if you, or at least you're more familiar with the meta. If you want to comment about what I have just said, go right ahead.
honestly, I didn't hear a whole lot of it. I kind of wanted to get back though to the topic on the matter of MK. Unless you want to rant on Tekken for a bit, which you can if you want to. But
No, I'm good. Unless you want to respond, I'm okay. You can discuss whatever you would like.
okay, one thing did want to say about MK, and this is one instance in which I think NRS would benefit from like more traditional fighting game character design logic. Is I do think part of the problem is it there isn't a problem just with offense and set play being in the game. It's that all the characters that are doing the best offense and set play also have viable defensive options. I truly believe if you're gonna make a character that the whole thing with them is the zero to death you by way of mix-ups, I feel like that character should have no defensive options that they get put on the back foot. Um, like even Cyrax, even though I think Cyrax is good, by the way. She's like a top 10 character. But I think the biggest crime about Cyrax is it's not even just what she can do, like with Serena, because that's to me that's just the cameo system functioning as intended. But her also having a top 5 armor move is like really egregious. She should not have the ability to like literally flip the tides of the match if she gets put on the back foot with how strong her offense is. Um, like Homelander, you can make a different argument since his armor kind of sucks on paper, but it is fast, right? Um, Same thing goes for like Havoc. Havoc should just like have no defensive options whatsoever if he's gonna play the way he plays now. So I do think that is like a viable thing you can take issue with the game as far as like the defense and offense balance. Is that there are certain characters that definitely have options on defense they should just not be allowed to have. I think a lot of those characters actually you can address pretty handily by simply doing that. Like, honestly, I think if you just took away Cyrax's armor entirely from her, that would be a different story, even if you never touched anything else about her character. Because then at least if she got hit or she got knocked down, she'd be really screwed. Whereas a lot of the other characters she is up against would still have the option of armoring her if nothing else. Like, am I making sense there?
Yeah, I
But
see
like,
what you're saying.
she's got literally, quite possibly, she is the best get off me armor in the entire game right now.
Yeah, I know it's fast. It's like what, like plus 40 something
Yeah.
on hit, kind of like
Uh.
Mauser too. I'm
So
not
like,
sure I personally would go in that direction. Um, I'm not even sure I would change much about her anyway. I would just go along with the changes that I suggested earlier. I think Peacemaker should zone better. Um, Sector already zones well enough. I think just she just needs more area control. How you would address again, there are multiple ways, and maybe through a cameo, maybe through buffs. Tanya is just not a relevant character right now. She was over nerfed. She needs to be able to do some of the stuff that she used to do before through a more complicated, game plan. Through the charges, that's one way to
yeah,
address it. That's probably the only way to address it actually. That's what I would do. I think the Cyrax situation, I don't know, but like, aren't the bombs supposed to like disappear when you hit her? Like, or at least when she gets, I don't know what the design philosophy is, but
they've with her in this game, they've never disappeared on hit. They always stay on the ground. But the thing is, like I said though, is that there is a counterplay to her that's universal. It just kind of sucks if you don't synergize with the cameo. And that is, like I say, you can pick Sub-Zero because with Ice Armor, she literally has no neutral presence whatsoever. She can't do anything to you.
that doesn't mean anything because most characters don't really synergize well with Sub Zero as their cameo, and
I
that's
know.
why.
I play a character that does, of course. So like, I have a really good
Yeah,
matchup
I know
against
you do,
Cyrax, so I
but
want to do that.
like, why
Right?
would I pick Sub Zero with Sector? Like, I already zone well enough. Like, that's not like I would never use
Well,
that cameo.
if your concern though is dealing with um, Cyrax set play, and you want to eliminate the set play from the equation for the most part, that you have an option to do that. Like I get what you're saying, but that goes back to my point that I think people are like too stuck in their ways, or they're like too committed to this idea that they should be able to play quote unquote their team and nothing else and still win. Whereas I think this game it's going to be best served by a meta where you have to play at least like 4 or 5 cameos.
Well, I don't think the game can ever be at that point because by design, and I was a huge non-believer. If you look at Sector, by design, Motaro is the way you want to play, right? You get the save armor, you get a lot of damage, the overhead conversions, you get to run away with the teleport. Like, that's the way she wants to play. And anything else other than that kind of feels like a downgrade. So unless you want to somehow magically tackle that, in my humble opinion, impossible issue, impossible dilemma, you're kind of wasting your time. So I don't mind people winning with the same team. That's not to me. I don't think that's the issue. In fact, that's honestly the majority of the game. Not everything, but it is the majority. Whether
Yeah,
it's
but it should. The point is though, is that it shouldn't be the majority of the game.
well,
That's when the game is at its worst. Is when you have a character that you just sit on one cameo and compete. That's not good for the
well,
game.
then maybe this game is not for you then, because again, that's the majority of the game. Whether it's Team 1000 with Movado or Havoc with Movado or Sector Motaro or Kung Lao with. I mean, I could just go on and go. Like that's the game, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. The game would have to be supported for another like 5 6 years to somehow meet your again still maybe theoretically impossible requirements. In which a character like Smoke, yes, he's the exception, but there are not that many exceptions. Like you usually use one or two at most cameos, and that's the game. Like that's what you use.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know.
Frank
I
Fukami.
am in the camp of people who think that the potential and the like depth of this game are like really downplayed. Um, and there's a lot of people that just don't want to believe the game has that much depth to it to some degree. Like they're kind of entrenched in their opinion about it. Like you could be right at the end of the day, but I don't know. I think and of course I could be wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think you could potentially see like if people are playing this game for another year and a half, I think you'll start to see what I'm talking about. Is that people will realize you can't just be like a one or two cameo player. Um,
I'm not questioning the depth of the game. I think the game has plenty of depth. I'm just saying I think what you're advocating for, I don't think is that feasible. At least not in the way the game is played right now, because most of the top tier, in fact, most of the good characters, they use one or two cameos, and I mean that's the meta. That's the game.
yeah, but
you
the
know,
point is though is that a lot of those cameos are counter pickable by other cameos.
Well, you go into a theoretical conversation that I'm not all that much. I'm just telling you what's winning. It's not me winning. It's not you. It's the people again who are traveling to all these tournaments. I'm just documenting how they're winning. And yes, Havoc almost exclusively the vast majority of the time he's paired with Mavado, or whether it's um Holman with Pharaoh, like, or whether it's Kung Lao with Sector. I think there's almost exclusively for most characters in the game a clear, defined cameo system. You may not like that, but that's the reality.
Um, I mean, like yes and no. I mean, also it's not to say that I don't think the game does need changes, but the problem is, and this is kind of a problem with like people who have a mentality that they don't like nerfs in their fighting games, is that you have to nerf it at some point, and like I think it's more of a problem of Movado just doesn't have enough cons to him to make people use someone else. Like like people really don't like. I know that there are people who they really don't like that there's health differences. I have always liked health differences in fighting games, but also like there's just no statistical evidence to suggest that matters. As a matter of fact, if you look at all the winning teams are standard or low health characters, right? They're not 1200 health characters. Um, like I think that doing things like maybe making Movado take even more health away would help. Like that's the problem is people they don't want to play a fighting game where there's an actual interesting dynamic of like you get this at the cost of that. They just want to have everything. And I mean, if you look at Tekken 8, that's kind of the criticism that people had about at least the way the game started out, when it seemed like that's all the game was that everyone can more or less do everything to more or less the same power level, and like that makes the game boring. Even like even leaving balanced discussions aside, that kind of makes a fighting game boring for people by the standard of what most people play them for.
Well, I'll let Franco jump in before I comment. But go ahead. What do you think about, I know you're a huge proponent of Basso and nerves, but your general thoughts on this topic.
As far as using one cameo or not for the like your competitive like run or something, or just like
I mean, anything you want to comment, whatever you passionate about to comment on.
I okay, say I guess I can clarify it to you that like basically the question is whether or not the game is really already solved or not. That's the question. Do you think this game has that little depth in it that we can safely say that we already understand everything about it,
uh
or
uh no, I think there are some things left to explore. Like I do feel like this game MK1 isn't as shallow as MK11. Like I feel like MK11, a lot of combos we were doing day one almost didn't change to combos we're doing now. Like there
I
was
mean, almost
almost
nothing. Almost nothing changed from day one. I don't think, but
yeah,
yeah.
it's like that's like a perfect example of what I would not like to see again. And
Listen,
I
we
think
don't.
MK1's very far from that. I think there's way more to be discovered and has been way more discovered in MK1 than MK11, but I do think I do
Do you,
wish some characters had more sauce. Like some characters seem pretty cut and dry. Uh,
do you think that there is room for the kind of thing I'm talking about, where maybe the meta is not so much set in stone, and people could find more diverse matchups that they were just willing to look in terms of counter picking cameos against cameos?
mm, I think like Movado is like a really good cameo. Janet's still very meta. There are some one off picks like Motaro with Garrus. That's like Garrus's meta cameo. Um, Homelander Farah and Natara Farah too, and Scorpion Farah. So Farah's pretty meta for some characters, but like um, there's I think there's I think the meta we're in now has the most cameo variety of all the metas we've been in. Like we're in the tremor meta right now, as people would say. I really wish they would revert some of the changes from previous patches. Like I'm an advocator for straight chopper from Cyrax. Uh, I would bring back pre-patch low hat and its old properties and striker grenades. I bring it back to some extent. Um, but
Personally, if someone is no lifing striker, I think giving him back pre-patch grenades would be a big mistake right now.
that would be the one that would be like I you would have to look at the most, in my opinion. That
Because
that would be the one you'd have to be the most careful with. But I think it can be done in a healthy way. Maybe not exactly
well, the problem.
pre-patch, um, but I
So
do
my
think for the most part the cameos are balanced right now, and
yeah,
obviously there are some that could be better. Like I wish Shujinko was better for the amount of skill he requires to win. Like the amount of skill he takes to win just doesn't equate the effort you have to put in. Like the reward
yeah.
doesn't match like the skill barrier he has.
That's how I feel about Madame Bo. I think she kind of sucks for all the stuff she has,
I agree.
and like her like hallmark feature being the drink mechanic. None of the stuff you get from that is worth a fuck at all.
No, yeah, I
I
agree.
it's just like it's about as useless as anything Drunken Master Bo and MKX had. It's like really sad.
Yeah, I know. I feel that. I agree. Like so far, every drink character they've made has just been there's way too much setup and not enough reward at all. Like I don't know why the drink dash cancels cost like what a cameo or a bar of meter or something or a one
A
drink or
bar
something.
meter. No, it costs all the drinks.
Oh, all the drinks. Oh, that's even
Yeah,
worse. That's
yeah, bar meter and all the drinks. It's terrible, and it scales pretty heavily. Like I did a video. Uh, I did a video talking about Madame Bo. I titled it that I called it Madame Bo as Madame Mid, and I showed off that if um, so I showed off this smoke. If he does a combo where he doesn't use cameo, he does a one bar combo using his own dash cancel, right?
hmm
It does more damage than using the dash cancel from Madame Bo if he just does it like solo, no cameo involved.
hmm.
Like he
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
got three.
I was one of the people. Yeah, I watched your video, and I think you were 100% right in this case about her. I don't think she offers enough in
I
terms of the
mean,
drinks.
the only thing that's a cameo that needs to rework really badly because even when I play against people that use her and they're good with her, I want you guys to just take a second to guess what 90% of their use of that cameo involves. Just tell me what you think.
What are they just throwing the projectile and doing stuff?
No, it's not even that. It's just the slide. That's all they use her for.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for
like
sure,
I
for sure.
never
Yeah,
see monkey flips used ever, and I think they have the same cooldown, the monkey flips and the slide flurry.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
there's almost no point in using monkey flips at all in their mids. They're not overheads. I know they're probably trying to avoid like hard to blocks with that, but
yeah.
there's almost no point in using the monkey flips.
Yeah, I said in my video that, like, I understood what they were going for, but, like, they should just be overhead, bro. There's no reason for them not to be.
And like my friend Phantom Blaze, a fellow Garrus player, he told me that there
Yeah.
was a point in time where Madame Bo could allow you to drink, and also she could throw a drink while the user is drinking a drink.
Yeah.
I guess that got hot fixed out or patched out at some point. You can't do that anymore. Like, I don't.
I didn't know that.
If
That's
if
stupid.
if that's the case, then I don't understand that change. It just makes her gimmick less accessible. And
Yeah.
another thing I don't like about her is when you take a drink, if you don't go straight into another drink, she just runs away. Like she should stay on the
Yep.
field unless you like deactivate her or if she gets hit by the opponent or something. And she doesn't follow
Yeah.
you either with the tray, so it's really
Yeah.
hard to drink. She doesn't have like a double shot that gives you two drinks at once, which I think would be cool if it costed like maybe a full like a half a cameo bar, because
Yeah.
drinking is free. And maybe if she had like a triple shot where she like a full cameo bar with like fast cooldown, that would be pretty cool. Like a some giant bottle that you know that you drink, like that would make drinking a lot more accessible in my opinion, and you wouldn't just see
You know,
Madame Bo doing slide all
well,
over
well,
doing
I'm done.
slide all over the place.
I thought about this too. And I don't know what you guys think. I actually think that the game would actually benefit from them being willing to experiment more with, like, Shujinko having a move that just doesn't use cameo bar period. It's just like added to your move list. I think that more cameos could be made very good if you did more of that. They just had no cost moves. What do you guys think?
Um, I think it would be
It's I mean,
something pretty interesting. Like I know it's technically a throw, but like Cyrax has like a secret move with his forward throw costing 2 bars, but it's a launcher. Like that's, I know it's like your throw but modified, but
Yeah.
um, I think that'd be pretty interesting, something to look into. Like I think Shujinko should have 14% throws, and he should maybe have some type of ambush, maybe. But if he's not gonna be having an ambush, he definitely needs stronger things elsewhere. But oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dave.
Oh,
Oh
you're
yeah,
fine.
no, I'm not against like new ideas. I think that's exactly what makes this game interesting, right? Can we have a slightly different meta from a different cameo? I'm all okay with that, but I would go back and return to my original talking point, which is I just think this game needs better zoning characters. It needs better defense. That's my there was a point you know that people like Mike and Tom they trashed this game and maybe they still do, but this is I would argue a very good game at this point. My
Yeah, I
personal
think so.
criticism, yeah, I
I,
think we
I
all
think that's
agree.
something we can all agree on. Yeah, that the game still like I'll
Yeah,
still
well,
defend the game on its balance.
yeah. So I'm not like trashing the game in the traditional sense. It's trash. It's this and that. It's not longer worth playing. Don't travel. I'm not in the camp anymore. My maybe it's personal, and I understand people will feel differently, but I really feel like when I play this game, I want more characters like Kung Lao. I want a stronger, slightly not super stronger, but like a slightly stronger Sector. I want Tanya to be good. I want Peacemaker to be better. Uh, that's really my number one criticism of this game. And um, again, I don't mind new ideas whether they're defensive or offensive, but I really want to focus on again, make Sector slightly better, make Peacemaker better, make Quan Chi better, make Tanya better, because we need one of those characters to be stronger. Because look, man, enough of the hard to unblock, hard to blockable meta and the setups. We get it, NRS. You're very good at that. You have proven yourselves. You get an A. Can we have other stuff?
That doesn't mean nerf
That
Tremor, by the way. Keep Tremor how he is.
no, yeah, exactly. That doesn't mean nerf these characters. Again, it goes back to the I guess buff nerf discussion that one of you briefly mentioned. I don't want honestly. I don't want anything nerfed. I want stuff buffed, mostly defensively for Mortal Kombat One. And I don't mind buffs defensive for even Tekken 8. Again, we just had that conversation, but it's if you strictly talk about MK1, it should mostly be buffs for the defensive and zoning characters. Again, not like a laundry of buffs, but there should be some stuff that you feel value in playing those characters. And again, we've seen what's winning. I don't care what top players are saying. I care what they do, and we see what's winning, and it's fine. But now let's buff the defense. Let's buff the zoning.
Well, I mean, in private conversations you and I've had, I mean, I agree with that. I've said multiple times. I think that some universal changes on an engine level would help. Like, I think that they should make it, for example, that projectiles, you just can't nullify the chip from those by flawless walking. I think they should do full chip all the time. Um, I and I know people don't like this. It's like an NRS thing people disliked before. I think they need to make more projectiles in this game mids. I would dare say, like Shang, his fireballs should just all be mids. Um, Same goes for like Lee May. I think her fireball should be a mid.
Hers would actually be pretty scary as a mid. Hers recovers really fast, but
Yeah.
but I still agree with majority of like other projectiles getting that
Well, it's
treatment.
funny because I think she's I think it was I forget who the content creator is. Maybe Tweety or obviously somebody who knows what they're talking about. Essentially, a character like Lee, she's not bad at all. She's very, very strong. The problem is because she has to pick a cameo. I guess this goes back to Cherny's point. Like she has to pick a cameo and decide: do I want the damage or do I want the footsies? Right? If she picks Kung Lao, she's better zoning, she's better footsies, right? Because she's a stubby character by design. But if she doesn't have Kung Lao, then she loses all of those advantages, but she does a lot of damage. So I understand that's the game, but characters who are like it, they get punished by the game. Like, why would you go to a tournament and use her when you can? Yeah, I'm just gonna pick Havoc, and now I have the zoning, and I have the anti-zoning, and I have the damage, and I have the armor. Like, what's the point, right? That's like where the imbalances start to emerge.
I would also buff some of the cameos that to be like better on defense in terms of like, so like Franco was talking earlier about how like WoW had spin used to launch on reversal. I do think there need to be multiple cameos that give you invincible launchers. Um, I think they should revert WoW back to that. I think so. To me, it makes zero sense given the rest of her kit that Sonya's leg grab doesn't give you that. I think Sonya's leg grab should 100% launch Wii reversal with it. Um, I think there should be multiple cameos to do that for you.
I agree.
Um, and that would be another big thing that would help, right? If you had, I know that there are people who like they feel like would be scrubby, but like I don't know. I think you should have invincible launchers in this game off of cameos. Now you can make it, if it's really that like big of an impending balance problem to you, you can make it take the whole cameo bar if you use it in that context only. But I definitely think that's one thing that should be looked at for sure. I think that there should be uh, more launchers in that respect. Um, I think that I still don't know for sure about this. This is just like a pet peeve thing of mine. I think you should be able to up block on literal frame one getting up because I just don't think safe jumps, like true safe jumps, should exist in this game. I think it would still be strong enough to have to play a jump in or a empty low or throw mind game against somebody. I think that would just add a bit more strategy and mind games to the game overall that would improve the game.
I agree with that
Um,
too.
like I really don't like it that save jumps aren't even character specific; they're just universally obtainable. I think that's kind of homogenizes the game in a bad way.
I don't know. I think there are changes that are likely to happen, and then there are just imaginations. And I think certain stuff that you guys suggest are more in the imaginative spectrum, if I may say, not to insult you guys. Um, it's like when my friend Rio said, "Okay, I don't like MKX armor." Like, okay, fair enough, right? Let me suggest all these changes. Rio, they're never going to do any of that stuff. They're just going to remove armor, make the game more offensive. And that's exactly what happened. So I think NRS is not known for as long as I've known them. They're not known for these subtle changes. A lot of their stuff, maybe recently they have been, and I'll give them credit, of course, but like they're not known to, okay, let's change this, thing in a very subtle ways. They're not known for that. They just are not. They usually do very straightforward buffs on nerves and changes that the community advocates for. Again, recently more subtle, but in general not so much. And I think what's most likely going to happen is the following. Look, if you tell them how to buff Peacemaker, they might do it. If you tell them how to buff Sector, they might do it. If you tell them how to buff Tanya, they may do it because they can see that those characters, are for the most part, not performing right.
Yeah.
If you tell them, nerf, I don't know, safe jump for all characters, they're not going to do that. They're not going to make up lock zero frame. That's just not going to happen. In fact, I don't mind up. I think anything that requires skill, like being able to time a safe jump, that's a good thing. But at the same time, you don't want like the scrub shit taking over, whatever that might be. I'm in that camp, so I don't want certain stuff changed. I just want, again, give me buffs for Peacemaker, give me my slight buffs for Sector. Quan Chi definitely needs to be looked at, and I will be I will almost exclusively limit my complaining to a very tiny amount, about the game. I think it's not too much to ask.
I gotta say, I don't know if they will ever do anything with Quan Chi to make him more of a zoner. I think it's been pretty. I think they've made it pretty obvious that um, their goal is to make him into more of a trapping character or setup character. I think that's all they're gonna do with him from here on out. I mean, the fact that they added dot damage to the EX bone cage kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, I mean the characters. I know Franco probably has a lot to say, but the character's just very, very different to balance. I don't want to make this a Quan Chi podcast.
I
If you
still
always
don't
Yeah,
have
think
the
time.
I still don't think he's all that hard to balance, but that's a discussion we've had many times already. But the
Yeah,
dot damage is pretty nice, honestly. It just really sucks that there's many characters with teleports and other anti-zoning tools to keep them in the dot damaging cage, and you can't stack bone cages with meter burn bone cage. It disappears, unfortunately. So if you make the read,
oh,
they're
I'll be
gonna
right back.
what?
I'll be right back. Go ahead, keep talking.
Oh no, you're good. Um, so one of the changes they made when they gave the meter burn bone cage the dot damage buff, if you do another bone cage and it successfully lands, the dot damaging bone cage will automatically disappear, even if there are more duration frames for it to linger around. If you do another bone cage and land it, it overwrites the old bone cage with the dot damage, and I that's just a sign to me that they were too afraid to allow for you to stack bone cages. I don't see why they did that because I don't think it'd be a big deal, but I think the dot damaging bone cage was like a safe change. Obviously, I think he still needs way more, but it is pretty helpful if you can lock them down into the bone cage. It just, like I said, there's just when you're fighting against like characters with teleports and other ways around the bone cage, like reptiles meter burn dash attack breaks through it. It's pretty difficult to utilize it sometimes, and it costs a bar meter, which you don't always have.
no, I completely understand. Again, I would, if you want, I'll give my brief comment. I know I've talked about this before. I would. I know you're not gonna like this, but I would probably nerf the armor to an extent. But I would buff his overall toolkit to be a lot more homogeneous as far as the low pokes, armor, etc. Right, make him a little bit more an overall versatile character than essentially his best, or at least not necessarily his best, but he actually kind of is. His winning formula is just put the armor on the screen, and either zone or go in for the throw, etc., etc. Right, and that's kind of like how he wants to play. I would steer away from that and make him a little bit more, like versatile, give him an actual low poke, maybe make his armor, what is it right now, like 24, 25 frames, make it maybe 20, have the ability to switch sides with it. So, but again, are they going to do this? No, that's why I haven't talked about it all that much because I know they're not going to do it. So, what's the solution? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not even sure NRS knows. I think he's probably destined to be almost like a low mid tier character, and I don't see any foreseeable changes that are gonna make him a lot better. Uh, Especially considering in the miserable state that he was released in. I'm even surprised that it even did some of the stuff that they did with him.
Yeah, well, that's what these podcasts are for, like suggest ideas and maybe you never know something might happen. But yeah, obviously he is a character that they always are cautious about, at least in this game.
I'm gonna say this that I'm in Cowboys camp. Just give him back trance and make it armored when you meter burn it.
Say it again.
I said I'm in Cowboys camp. Give him back trance and make the meter burn version armored and make it an armored launcher.
You
Fuck it.
definitely, I mean, if you made trance like MK9 or MKX like style trance, you definitely don't want that with Orange Portal. That's all I'll say. People bitch a lot more. So like, um, if you trance would be cool, but you would have to change Armor Portal for sure, or somehow balance trance to where it doesn't lead to like a restand or Orange Portal scenario. But yeah, it's in invasions, but yeah, it's not in his toolkit in the competitive, unfortunately. and that's like one of the biggest teases they've been doing, which I really am not a fan of.
Well, it would seem to me the solution for that would be obvious. Is you would just have to flag it so that if it's detected that he uses trance at any point in a combo, he just can't. So he just can't orange portal until the combo's over.
Yeah, he's just locked out of it, kind of like straight
Right.
chopper and Kenshi Sento summon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could do that, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna
The
stick
unused
with.
assets like that really piss me off. Like, why is trance
Yeah,
in the game and invasions only?
they're gonna have to take a risk, well, better or worse. I think with characters like him and um, Tanya and probably Sector, right? They're gonna have to take a risk to some extent and be like, okay, maybe this is not working. Maybe you have to look at differently. But again, like I keep saying, NRS has not really been known for doing that. For the most part, again, maybe recently more so than in the past. But I do hope that obviously the character is better because he does contribute to the defensive and zoning matter. Not so much right now, but we'll see. But I do want to kind of wrap it up, and be honest, we can continue privately. Um, and I apologize to our audience. I know we've been over the place with Mortal Kombat 1. We're going back to Tekken 8, defense, offense, nerfs, etc. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do want to give Cherny the last word since he is the guest, and he deserves to have the last word. Go ahead, my friend.
I thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to Franco here because we need more podcasts like this in the NRS scene to get attention, so we can actually have some productive conversations here. Um, and hashtag scouts in the comments, please, so we know you actually watch this.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the Nexus podcast, I'm your co-host M2 Dave, of course, as always, with your other co-host King Jr., aka Burrito Warhees. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment. Please spread, the word of this podcast and this channel, as Cherny said, and we hope to see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.